Hello, everyone.
Hi there, folks.
This is Amanda.
And this is Rita.
And you're listening to I Don't Know Her, the podcast where we talk about women you've probably never heard of.
But you should have.
And now you will.
Mm-hmm.
Rita's like surprising me with something this morning. I don't know what it is.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel in your relationship with your wife that you're motivated still?
Motivated in what way?
Motivated to still work at the relationship, do little things here and there, surprises, or taking an adventure, trying something new.
Yeah, I think for the most part, yes. I would say I'm really bad at the gesture thing. That's just not that's not where I go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she does. And so then I end up feeling really shitty because I don't do gestures. And that's just in general a thing I don't do. Mm-hmm. I'll think about a gesture well after the fact. Like, oh man, you know what I should have done?
So after the moment has fleeted.
Yeah. After it has flown past, I realize I could have been a better person.
Well, I'm asking because I was having a conversation with a friend, and he's been in a relationship now for like a year and a half, maybe. They moved in together. They're young. They're so cute. Just a cute couple. Very open-minded and artsy. They love the uniqueness about each other. She's like, I honestly just look at her and she's just like this gem, like this little diamond of a person. Just a lot of spirit, she's beautiful. She's just a beautiful person inside and out. And he is too. And I just love seeing them together. And they recently just had a bump in the road. And he was asking me, sometimes he's especially with the pandemic, he's like, I'm just feeling not motivated. And I know it's a problem. So they sat down and talked about what they could do to still be motivated in their relationships. And then he asked me, do you feel, after we've been together for 12 years, are you still motivated? And I was like, huh. I was like, well, I know we do the day-to-day pretty well.
Yeah.
But I was like, I guess for me, what motivation means is encouragement in my partner. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think in regards to the difference between old and new relationships is that those motivations change.
Definitely, because people change.
When you're first in a relationship, the motivation is generally to show someone how good you are for them. Mm-hmm. You're doing your damnedest to be I'm the one you should stay with. I'm the one you should choose.
The best foot forward.
And then once you've already made your choice, you've gotten married or you've made life choices that sort of cement you together, barring, a huge separation, mm-hmm. Then your motivations become much different. How do we grow and change together and not grow and change apart? Mm-hmm. And I think that's why long-term relationships are hard. Especially monogamous ones.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're contending with the idea that you don't want things to go stale.
Yeah.
To be bored. But you also want that comfort and stability. And I think those are hard, I think especially for young people. Mm-hmm. Because, you do have a little bit more of that desire to sow your wild oats.
Yeah.
And so I think it's harder to stay in a committed monogamous relationship when you're younger, mm-hmm. Even if it's a good one, even if everything is great, because you're like, but wait, what about that one over there?
That looks interesting.
I think I could really like that. I think I'd like a lot of that. So I think that changes. And I think where people get into trouble is when they aren't motivated to want to continue to improve and change and grow together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been going to therapy, and I did my last session. We did talk about how things are between me and my husband, and I got a little bit of homework, and I got some homework sheets, and one of them was like a questionnaire. It has like maybe 20 questions on there, and it's for like 5-minute intimacy time. Like, say you're in the bathroom and you're brushing your teeth, like put it up on the wall or something and ask each other these questions. And it's just to be still relate to each other, remember things that happened in the past that made you laugh, or the reasons why you love each other. And so I feel like I'm motivated in that to still discover
Yeah.
who he is, because I feel like I know the entire story yet. And I absolutely love when I find, like, he'll say something to me and I'm like, what? He's like, I never told you that? I'm like, no. Those are fun moments. I feel motivated in discovering more of who he is and who he's going to be.
Yeah. I still get a lot of joy and excitement out of just being together and going and doing things together. Like, we're going to Seattle because I have an appointment. And I'm real stoked about it.
Yeah.
We're going to go to Bainbridge Island for the first time. We're going to take the ferry over to Bainbridge.
I do, like, envy how much you travel. I mean, like the trip to LA and stuff like that. I was like, oh, I would love to do that.
That trip to LA was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I would live in LA in a heartbeat. I tried to convince Abby while we were there we should move to LA. I love Los Angeles. I think that when I was younger, I was really pretentious about the idea of LA. Mm-hmm. But man, I like it. I like it a lot. Great food, lots of cool culture, music all the time. You know, it's a creative town. Like, that's what it's built on, is creativity. So I think there's a lot of motivation to be and stay creative.
Oh yeah.
I obviously hate, like, there are murals when you're driving around LA. There are like these random murals, and they'll just be like pretty people standing in front of them taking their selfies, or someone taking their pictures for them. Mm-hmm. Because there are so many influencers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, it's like the literal antithesis of my soul. I hate that culture so much. Gosh. But, you know, everything's got their dark side. Right.
Oh, one of the questions on our questionnaire sheets, because she gave me 3 sheets, and one of them was a friendship sheet, one of them was a lover's sheet, and then another one was, I forget what the other one was. I think it was an intimacy sheet. And on the friendship one, it was, how am I a good friend to you? And how am I not a good friend to you? And I was like, I don't want to answer that. And I don't want you to ask me that.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one. I'll ask Abby that one later. You know, we just had sort of a come to Jesus moment yesterday, actually.
Really?
You know, Abby's kind of floundered when it comes to her professional career. Mm. You know, when we first got together, she was working in the field in which she had gotten her degree. And when we moved here, it was during the recession. So that was already tough. But she got an AmeriCorps position in her field. And AmeriCorps it pays you a living stipend, but like, it's so much, like, it's so little money that we qualified for full food stamps.
Oh, jeez.
Because it was a real rough time, and we really struggled with that. But it was like in her field, and it was like, well, this is like the way you get your foot in the door, because her field of study, it was in environmental education, and it's a very small field. There are not a lot of places that have positions like that, more out west than there are in the east, hence the reason why she wanted to move in the west. And so, you know, that was really like her passion. Mm-hmm. But after a few years, it just became clear that she was never going to make a living wage at it. And she had applied for many, many, many positions all across the West, mm-hmm. And didn't get a single interview, wow. Which was really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were, I don't even remember how the mobile canning thing came to be. Somebody mentioned something about mobile canning. I think it was Greg. It was her eventually her boss at the brewery. And he had mentioned something about mobile canning and how nobody was doing it here. And that's how we decided to start our business.
Mm-hmm.
And initially it was supposed to be like something where we would both run it full time. But it became clear within the first like year that would be quite a few years down the road that would be possible.
Yeah.
And that really Abby was going to have to run the joint herself. And she just wasn't really very, very motivated to do that. And so we ended up having to sell our business after about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then, since then she's been doing like home remodeling work. But, she's not necessarily trained in that. Like the guy who was her boss, I don't want to be too critical, but I don't think he did a stellar job really helping her understand and learn things. Especially as soon as it turned to 2020. So she really had like a year of half-hearted instruction and then nothing. And
that's not fair.
Yeah, it really wasn't. And so she's been out there like doing work by herself and then not necessarily always doing it well and then having to redo it and therefore work for free for a while. And it's just demoralizing when you have to redo something that you think you did okay and then you realize you didn't. It just sucks, and it's not the first time it's happened. And it happened yesterday, and she was really upset about it. And I was like, part of the thing is like she needs to get real training. Mm-hmm. If she wants to do this for a career, and at this point, girl, we're looking down the barrel of 40. You need to pick a career, and that's really hard. That's been hard in our relationship. Is like that she just sort of like goes with the wind, and then gets this career path sort of that like falls in her lap. But I want, I'm the kind of person that like, if I decide to do something, I'm going to become really good at it. And I'm going to do that through education and things like that. And she doesn't always feel motivated to do that kind of stuff. And I think that's hard when you're in a relationship where one person's this kind of way and the other person is this kind of way. In a lot of situations, her easiness, like going easy kind of attitude is great because it mellows me out. And then in other ways, like in this situation, it means that like, shit or get off the pot situation. You got to actually like, nobody's going to make your career happen for you.
Yeah.
You have to be the one who does that. And so we did have kind of a come to Jesus talk yesterday because I spent half of my day doing all of the research on how she could go and get proper training and certification and apprenticeships and what the pay scale would be like and so on and so forth, while she had 2 months of being unemployed and could have done those same things. And that is very frustrating for me, and it comes out in the way that we interact.
I think that's happening. I've seen in multiple partnerships and couples and marriages, there's some things where I believe people have let it slide because they had outlets that maybe distracted them from such glaring reality. And like myself included in my marriage, and I know other people are going through things. And just like I said with my friend, things are staring them right in the face. And I think one of the things that he was saying is he doesn't open up. And it's like, your partner is asking you to change that because it's not going to work if you don't. So I think certain people are getting to a certain place where it's got to change. Yeah.
I think relationships have a certain amount of give and take in them where you have to be good at, you have to know your partner well enough to know when it's time to push and when it's time to step back.
Absolutely.
And I haven't always been good at that. I have at times pushed when I should have stepped back, or I've stepped back when I should have been pushing, and vice versa for her. Right. So, I'm glad that now it seems like ready to take that step forward and try to get that. I mean, these are the best working years of her life. This is when she's going to have the most, opportune moment to establish herself in a career and to have some upward mobility and earning potential, especially in a field like what she's in, because in 15 years, she probably won't be able to do as much.
Oh, yeah.
Because her body won't be able to do it. So it's really important. Like, we got to do it now. So now's the time when I'm going to be pushing a buggy. Like, we got to go downhill now.
Create that motivation.
Yeah. So I think that it was a tough conversation to have, especially after having kind of had her ego hurt.
The tough ones, I've been through some tough conversations with my partner, and it always feels better when you're done. It's not fun going through it.
Yeah.
It's so crunchy and cringy, but once you're through it, it's so much better.
Yeah.
And that's what I did tell my friend. I said, the fact that you are willing to try speaks volumes, because your other relationships you didn't. And this means that this one you really want.
And you've got to be able to listen to the other person and not just listen in order to speak.
Yeah.
You've got to listen in order to hear. And again, something I have to work on. Like, it doesn't come naturally to me. And I definitely have to work on it when I'm with someone. So, I'm still sitting here talking about how I'm working on making sure I'm a better listener. And I think that that's maybe the motivation that your friend was speaking of, that desire and willingness to want to continue to be better.
Yeah, definitely. And if anybody wants some pictures of those questions that they might want to have some fun and ask their partner, just DM our Instagram and I will send you some screenshots.
Yeah, I kind of want them. Maybe we should do them on air.
Oh my gosh, should we do it as a friendship one?
Yeah, we'll do one of those maybe in the next couple weeks or something. Maybe for our bonus episode this month.
All right.
Maybe that's what we'll do.
Alrighty.
All right. Okay, it's your turn.
My turn.
Who do you have for me?
All right. Do you know who Debora Moore is?
Debora Moore.
You have no idea who this is at all.
I don't.
I already know.
But I do love Drag Race a lot. And there was the newest season, there's a drag queen named Simone, and she had a character named Deb. But she said, actually, it's Debora. And now I cannot hear or see the name Debora without thinking, Debora. But tell me about Debora Moore.
Now I'm going to say Debora.
You're welcome.
Debora is a contemporary glass artist and first African-American woman to achieve residency at Abate Zanetti Glassblowing Center in Italy.
Question.
Yes.
Did this come to you after watching Blown Away on Netflix?
Fuck yes!
We've been watching the first season.
It's fantastic.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm mad that it's not an hour long.
I want more. Yeah, definitely.
I also think, like, why aren't you following the regular format of a reality competition show where there's like a mini challenge and then a major challenge?
Mm-hmm. So you get to see multiple struggles and then the finished product.
But what are they doing? Do they not know how reality television works?
There is a format.
Netflix, I'm sure you're listening, Netflix. So go ahead and get on that.
I actually, too, have always been quite enamored with glass. I loved collecting marbles when I was a kid, especially the ones that were had the bubbles in them and stuff. We used to go to Seattle a lot, and we would go down to Pike's Place, and they have all those shops with like the little glass ornaments and the dolphins and the unicorns and stuff. And I always loved the way that glass captures light and plays colors on the walls and stuff like that.
Yeah, glass is cool. And watching that Blown Away show, I've been like, whoa, that's how that's made? That's insane.
Some crazy, crazy skills.
Yeah.
Well, Debora was born on an Air Force base outside of St. Louis, Missouri, into a military family in 1960. She comes from a big family. She's one of 6 children, which I can relate to. As a child, Deborah said that she would often spend summers with her grandparents. And while spending those summers with her grandparents, she looks back really just when she speaks about the summers with her grandparents, you can just see there's a glow and a love and a fondness there. She would spend a lot of time in their garden, and to keep her busy, they would put her in free public art classes, which I remember my parents trying to find everything and anything that was free to throw you in at summertime. Like, here, you're going to go build a house out of popsicle sticks. There's 3 hours right there.
Yeah, I grew up in a town of nothing, so my mom was just like, go somewhere. Get away from me. Here's 50 cents.
You're like, okay.
Yeah.
One of the first mediums she worked with was ceramics, learning how to mold, form, and sculpt. And she continued attending through her youth to all kinds of workshops that had to do with art. So whether it was sketching, the sculpture, she also started getting into, what was it, like welding? Like just little things. And I'm going to go a little bit into what was going on in the studio glass world just for a second, just so we know that when she is entering it, this is what it was like. So before the 1960s, studio glass blowing and sculpting was not a big thing in the U.S. Up to this point, all the glass making had been produced by factories. And this was like the first ever studio glass workshops, which was mainly pertaining to artistic glass blowing. The first workshops were held in 1962, like the first ever workshops.
So glass just wasn't a thing here.
It just wasn't.
It was big elsewhere, though?
Italy.
Okay.
Big time. Seattle, Washington just happened to be one of the cities where young artists were experimenting and creating studio glass art. Trailblazers, like you probably know Dale Chihuly.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Chihuly.
He is one of my favorites.
Well, he's incredible.
Yeah. And
did you get to see the Chihuly exhibit when it came here? I didn't get to go.
It was gorgeous. And for a while, I just sat on a bench and watched people, because you would have to walk down this ramp and you turn a corner. Like, they had everything super tall so you couldn't see the glass. So then when you turn a corner, then all the glass is right in front of you. And I just sat and watched people as they turned the corner to see that like first shot of their faces when they got to see it. And it was beautiful.
So Dale Chihuly is, I don't know if he's originally from Seattle, but he's a Seattle artist.
He is, yeah.
And he creates these massive, well, a lot of times massive glass installations. And they're almost like, if you could think of like what the sun would look like if it were in glass form.
Yeah.
With those like flames looking everywhere.
I was going to say it's like fire.
Yeah. A lot of it looks like fire or like sea creatures or whatever. It's really beautiful.
His signature pieces are those sea forms.
Yes.
Where it's like the disc and he spins them when they're hot. So then they curl on the edges and get that ribbon effect.
His work is gorgeous. And, I highly recommend if you live in Washington or ever visit Seattle, you should check out the Chihuly exhibit if you're not familiar with his work.
It's well worth it.
Yeah. There is an episode of Top Chef at the Chihuly exhibit with Anna Faris and Chris Idiot Face.
Mr. Idiot Face.
Yeah, Chris Pratt, who I don't care for. And you can see his work in that shot.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I was pretty sure you were going to know that name, because that is like, if you're from Washington, or if you live in Washington and you don't know him, then you're missing out.
Yeah, you're under a rock.
Yeah. Well, him and other artists who had traveled and learned Italian glass art techniques were coming together in the Pacific Northwest to work in collaborative workshop spaces. And this was a crazy time in the history of studio glass art. It was a time where they were building their own tools. They were trialing and troubleshooting blowing techniques, color blending, cutting, cooling. These are all things that you can go now to a class. They will provide you with tools and you will learn techniques. Mm-hmm. They had nothing. Yeah. They were starting from scratch. They were like, okay, well, I don't know how to really get this shape, so let's cut this piece of pipe and let's do this. And well, if you fire it at that temperature, it'll shatter. Okay, so let's take it down this. So they were paving the way.
When I was watching Blown Away, I was a little bit blown away.
Pun intended.
By like, I know that glass is delicate. Like
Very.
I'm not dumb, but there was this one woman who had created this entire thing and it was almost done, and she just accidentally bumped it up against a room temperature tong that was sitting there, and it shattered.
Yep.
Because just the touch of something of a different temperature
that changes
it.
that molecular structure, and bam, it's gone.
I was like, that sucks. Also, they call it the glory hole.
It is the glory hole.
And I'm a real not a fan of that.
Yeah, glory hole's not the best name.
Don't love it.
Don't love it.
I don't love glory hole.
Yeah, just call it the hot box or something. I don't know. So they're just winging it at this time. These artists look back on these days as they call it the Wild West, a new frontier, not only with glass as a medium, but as a collaborative group of creators. Since studio glass was new, they had to work together to share techniques and ideas and actually assist each other in building pieces, because you need sometimes a 6 set of hands.
Yeah, that was another thing I learned from that show, was that I didn't realize there's just basically no way to make a creation without another person. There has to be at least 2 people.
It's cooling so fast and you need to work with it quickly.
Yeah, there needs to be at least 2 people on deck.
So one of these spaces that was created was called the Pilchuck Glass School, founded in 1971, which we'll come back to in a little bit. I'm not sure when she first arrived, but Debora ends up in Washington. At this time in her life, she's balancing multiple part-time jobs and raising a daughter. She didn't have any finances for art classes, but she was able to obtain a work-study grant and begin attending classes at the Pratt Fine Arts Center in Seattle. She would get there before people would show up, and she would stay after everybody had left, and she would charge furnaces. She would clean up the shop while her daughter played in the print studio. So she's struggling a little bit, but she's making it work. In 1989, while at Pratt, she begins glassblowing classes. And here's a small clip of how that experience influenced her.
In the beginning, they told me that women didn't do this, and this is in the 80s. And when they said you can't do it, of course, I had to try it. So once I become interested in something, I become obsessed with it. I worked for a few years just trying to figure out what makes glass and how does it work and what are your limitations, only to realize there are no limitations. I think that is what really helped to free me. I really love its fluidity and ability to transmit and reflect light. And the fact that I can stop the process at any moment.
That was a beautiful video.
I am obsessed with the way that she speaks. She's so calm.
Yeah, she's got one of those soothing radio voices.
Yeah. I was like, read me a story. Or just talk about making art.
Yeah. That was really cool. And it was neat to see her. Because, you said she was born in 1960, right? And which means she's, still relatively young. And it's just cool to see someone that you're like, oh, like, you're like here now.
Yeah. And I do like that too. I couldn't find, I think I had mentioned last week I was having trouble finding information because my person was more modern.
Yeah.
And I was like, why can't I find more details? Like I couldn't even find her birth date.
Interesting.
Just her year.
That's so funny.
I don't know. Yeah. So like she said, she got some pushback from the glass community because she was a woman. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure the fact that she was a Black woman had something to do with it as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Debora said, when I faced adversity, I would take long walks in the woods. I always found serenity among trees and flowers. She does give credit to a few of her mentors that didn't push her back, but helped her craft her talent instead. So she continued and dove into her relationship with glass. She spent years exploring and refining her techniques and learning all she could about how to shape glass into forms that she wanted. And she made what she said she felt close to, which were natural forms like trees and leaves and flowers. When she told people that she wanted to make trees out of glass, people were like, oh, that's never been done before.
Really?
Yeah. And then she was like, is that good? Is that bad? She said people were kind of turned, like, didn't think she could do it or that it wouldn't look good. And so she went ahead and was going to try it anyway. One technique she loved to work with a lot was working extremely hot and fast. The less that you manipulate the glass, the more clear and brilliant the color is, which I didn't know. You get less air bubbles in there and it stays more brilliant.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
I didn't know anything about glass till I watched that 3 episodes of the Netflix show. So now I'm obviously an expert.
In 1990, she won her first of what would be 3 scholarships. She was invited to blow glass at the Pilchuck Glass School. While attending Pilchuck, she was mentored by Dale Chihuly himself, and eventually she was invited to become part of his glass-blowing team. So
That's awesome.
All of those people that are in that room helping him create pieces, she was right in there. Have you ever seen him work?
No.
When he is in a group?
I've never seen him work. I don't even know what he looks like. He's
not the greatest looking man. He does look a little unkempt.
Is he a little grizzled?
He's a little grizzled. He was in a very severe car accident when he was, I think, in his mid-30s, early 40s. So he's missing an eye. He wears an eye patch. It forever changed how he could work.
Yeah.
Because his eyesight obviously is affected. So what he started doing was just getting these big collaborative groups together, and he will set up a table and he puts on music, whatever he's feeling, crazy, like live upbeat music. He'll sketch and he'll throw the sketches on the floor, and all the glass blowers will come together and try to create the sketch. And he'll help direct, he'll blow, he'll cut, and they all do it together.
That's pretty fascinating.
It just seems like fun.
Have you seen any, do you know that because you saw video of it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
I do know there was a documentary on PBS that I watched that showed when he was doing those collaborative art projects.
I wonder if Debora's on there.
She's in there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. She joins his team, and she was able to work with and learn from a master Italian glassmaker named Lino, I'm going to do my best here, Tagliapietra.
Nice job.
There you go.
I'm sure it's perfect.
Through the tight knot world of glass blowers.
The tight knot world?
Tight knit? Tight knit? Tight knit?
Tight knot.
Tight knit.
It is tight knit, but I love tight knot. I want to say tight knot from now on. It's a tight knot world out there.
It's a tight knot world for us.
Oh, no. Oh. Okay.
Shake it off. Shake it off.
Shake it up.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to sing that in my head. Through the tight-knit world of glass blowers, she met a fellow artist named Benjamin Moore, who was a teacher at Pilchuck. He had been one of the spearheads in the glass blowing movement in the early years. The two worked together first, having deep discussions about techniques and aesthetics. Her work was more natural and freeform. His work is very geometric, tight, clean. And they just felt like they complemented each other. So they started seeing each other. They eventually get married. After Pratt, Debora began traveling the world. She visited other galleries and other artists. She went to Italy, Thailand, Antarctica, Costa Rica, in just a few of the places where she ventured. And while traveling, she would study and sketch nature around her. And I'm going to let you hear it from her of why she likes working from sketches and not photographs, and how this can influence her pieces, and also so you can see a couple images of her work.
I don't take a lot of pictures when I'm out doing my studies. I take a sketchbook. I like what my mind's eye is seeing. I like what I think I'm seeing. And so I can sketch that down. But when I take a picture or a photograph, it's exactly the way it is. But I'm not trying to make anything exactly like it is. I'm trying to capture the essence. I like to work with texture because my mother, she's deaf, and then later in life she became blind. And so I like her to be able to feel with her hands to have her sight. I bring her in the studio and say, okay, I'm making a tree, can you feel it? And she would go, oh yeah, I can feel the knots in the tree, I can feel the flowers. Whatever it is that I want to make, I really have to do a lot of research and just put myself right into it. You just can't predict when that next moment's gonna hit you.
She's exquisite.
Yeah, she is.
Like that. First off, the story about how she decided to make her pieces textural so that her mother could feel them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is like beautiful. And her actual work is phenomenal.
I like how she said that she wants to sketch it because she wants to portray what she's feeling, not necessarily. You can make a flower that looks like a flower, but she's doing much more than that.
Yeah, like a specific flower too. Like if you take a photo, then you're making that flower and not the idea of that flower. So I like that too. I think that's neat. I have a friend who's a painter who does something very similar.
Nice. As you can see, her work is very organic looking. It looks real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like that orchid. There was an orchid that was on the screen that it like took my breath away. It looked just like a real orchid.
That would be painstaking to make and like to not break.
Yeah. And also, it doesn't look like the glass is painted.
No, it's all she does where you add that broken glass into and you melt it and incorporate it so it creates those layers.
Yeah, so I don't know how she made those like lines on the petal, like on the orchid
because
petals.
orchids do have those like ribbons,
yeah,
and like ribs on their leaves.
Yeah, some of them do, not all of them, but yeah, the one that she made did. That was really fascinating. It must be very difficult.
I would imagine. Her latest show, which was at the Smithsonian Art Museum, is called Arborea. She handpicked from a quarry these rough cut stones that she used as bases. So they're like maybe about, some are like 3 feet, some are like 5 feet. They're rather large. They're really rugged, really rough cut. Looks like maybe broken earth in a way. So she took all of those bases and she created standing sculptures and she made her trees. And this was, I'm going to show you later pictures of the trees that she made, but one of them is like this really twisted, knotted tree branch with all of these plums hanging off of it. But she like broke and shaved glass to make it look like snow frost on the plums. Yeah.
How cool is that?
And
that's such an innovative, smart idea.
Yeah, and it looks frosty.
It looks real.
It looks real.
Yeah.
She made these trees with like these, like she said, she bases it off of something that is in real life, but then she goes with it and takes it a step further. So these plants that she created look like little fairies should be living in them. They just are very magical, very mystical looking. And this was a commissioned exhibit. And so while working on it, she covered it with cloth and she went home and then she came back to her studio and she could see it through the window and it wasn't standing anymore. And so she like opens the door and it had shattered.
What happened?
A change in temperature, maybe the weight of the canvas she put on it because she had covered it up so it wouldn't get dusty. And she said that she blacked out because she was so devastated.
Well, and the amount of work she probably put into it.
And it's
time.
a commissioned work for the Smithsonian.
Oh, shit.
But she said she went back. She ended up sticking with it. It took her 2 years to finish the entire project. So imagine like you're going towards the tail end of 2 years and something shatters.
Yeah, no, I couldn't. My mental state would just be lost.
I would snap. The pieces that she created, the trees, because they are on stands, they are 360 viewable. So you can walk around them, which was one thing that she wanted people to be able to see her work like how she sees nature when she goes on her walks. The pieces that she's most well known for are the orchids. She has pieces in all kinds of colors, sizes, shapes. there's something about the orchid that she's enamored and obsessed with. She just says that she's done hundreds of them, and she said she'll be doing them till she dies. Because she just knows she'll never be able to do it all, in all the colors, all the shapes, all the forms that she wants.
Honestly, if anybody ever wants to get me another orchid again, because I cannot keep those fuckers alive, I want one of those.
Get you a glass one.
I want a glass orchid.
Well, if you have $6,000, if I ever get $6,000, I will buy you one of her
Yeah,
orchids.
if you just win the lottery, you can buy me an orchid.
During her travels, she earned an artist residency at the Abate Zanetti Glassblowing Center in Venice, Italy, making her the first woman and the first African American to ever receive this residency.
That's cool.
This school is home to masters of the Murano glassblowing style, and it has been in operation for 150 years.
A lot longer than America's 40 or whatever it's been.
So for a minute. Returning to the States, Debora became an instructor at the Pilchuck Glass School and at the Pratt Fine Arts Center. Also, she appreciated the teachers that didn't give up on her, and in return, she began teaching glassmaking to at-risk youth at the Hilltop School in Tacoma. This school was founded and funded by her mentor, Dale Chihuly. She said this about her experience at this school. She says, "My glass class was right next to the detention room. Kids would walk by, stop, watch, and ask about glass blowing. And working with glass, they have to learn to work together as a team, even if they come from rival gangs." She said she couldn't have been more proud when her former students graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design. So she said that she felt she was offered something from teachers who didn't just push her aside. So she wanted to do the same thing, which I thought was a wonderful way to pay it forward.
That's really cool. And the other thing about glass is it teaches you patience and perseverance.
Oh, yeah.
Because watching those people have their pieces shatter when they're almost done with them, I turned to Abby and I was like, I couldn't do that. I would have lost my temper in a way that would be very unflattering. I wouldn't have been able to walk away, take a breath, and come back and keep going. I would have been like, fuck this shit. I would have been busting everything and throwing a tantrum and leaving.
I throw a tantrum when I can't get the Ziploc bag for the sandwich meat to open. And I basically rip it open into shreds so that I have to put it in a Tupperware container because I got so frustrated. So I don't think I could do this either.
But imagine if you or I had started to learn that from glass blowing when we were teens and couldn't control our anger then.
Oh, jeez.
Maybe we would have been able to have a little bit of an easier time with the small frustrations that now can send us over the edge. I literally lost my mind today because I couldn't get the attachment off the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, I think maybe we would have benefited from some little patience and perseverance.
Yeah, patience and perseverance.
Throughout her career, she's won multiple awards for her work and received more artist residencies. One of them took her all the way to Japan, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
She won the Critics Award at the 35th International Glass Convention, and she's had solo and group exhibitions all over the world. One of her solo exhibitions was for the Northwest African American Museum in Seattle. She has permanent pieces in there as well.
Maybe that's where we should go. I wonder if they have them open right now.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
As a glassblower in 2021, only 33% of the industry are female glassblowers and artists. And as a Black person, Debora is part of an even lower percentage. I'm looking up at the data, it's about less than 10%.
Jesus.
Yeah. With her drive to not move away from an industry that said there was no room for her, she pioneered new techniques and retained shop glass knowledge that now can be taught to future shop glass artists. Debora and her husband have a home in the Mount Baker district in Seattle. They ended up opening up their own gallery, which I definitely want to go to now.
I might go there this weekend.
It's in the International District in Seattle. The actual building used to be a Baptist church and a brothel at one time, which gives both of them a nice laugh.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, was it those things at the same time?
It wasn't.
Because that would have been real great. Those Baptists would have been so mad. So mad.
Deborah says they enjoy spending time watching their shows. They like reading to each other, cooking Italian food, which reminds them of studying in Italy. Due to the pandemic, their gallery is closed for now.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's been hard for both of them. She said in this interview that I read that she's very disheartened, that she was losing motivation to do her artwork because the gallery was their life.
Yeah.
Being able to work with people and have people come and enjoy the art. They decided to spend most of 2020 in a glass cabin that Benjamin built himself for her. I could not find a picture of the glass cabin, and I'm wondering it's because they don't want anybody to find it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, when she had won her residency, he said he promised he would build her a glass cabin in the woods, and so she's like, "Do it."
I cannot. I have to see some.
I want to see it. We're gonna have to find it.
Yeah, because like I don't believe it. I will not believe that there is a glass cabin until it is shown to me.
They said it is nestled deep in the PNW woods. Currently, they are navigating the pandemic just like us, and they're waiting to see what the future holds for their next artistic adventure. I know it's a little short, but like I said, it was hard to find information on her, but I still wanted to showcase her because I thought she was fantastic.
Maybe we'll be able to reach out to her personally and hear from her on the show.
Oh my gosh, that'd be awesome.
I'm working on something like that right now.
Well, if you want to take a look at other pieces that she's done, she has her own website. It's deboramoore.com. Also, the Tacoma Art Museum has a file on her if you want to look at the artwork that they have from her in their gallery. I got some info from her profiles on the Shantz Gallery website and the Cornish Museum of Glass website. I took some info from Fragile Beauty by Walker Orenstein for the Seattle Times. Seattle Magazine had an article about her that said how Seattle became the epicenter of glass. In a Grove of Glass Trees by Brangian Davis. And the YouTube video that I took the audio samples, it is called State of Glass for Visit Seattle TV. And there you can see some of her work, and she goes through a little bit of her career and how she got started.
And you can also see some pretty shots of Seattle.
Yes, absolutely.
Seattle's a beautiful city if you've never been there. It's a beautiful city.
She said that her and her husband and most glassblowers love Seattle because of the temperature, of finding that happy medium of working in such a hot space, but it's balanced by the cold air.
Yeah. It's never real hot there.
Mm-mm.
And it's obviously never very sunny either. You get some sun in the summer, but not a lot. It's like right now we're on the east side of the state of Washington. And so we have a different climate from Seattle, but it is still, having grown up in Montana, it's still much more Pacific Northwest than it is west.
Oh, yeah.
Like I grew up in Montana. I spent a lot of time in like Wyoming and, Colorado and Idaho. They have very similar climates. This is not like that. This is not like that at all.
No.
And so, we get the sun is the biggest difference. Like in the winter, you don't see the sun here. And in Montana, you have 300 days of sunshine a year.
Well, I could imagine if you're glass blowing in like, say, LA or San Francisco, where it's hot, but it's also wet. And so what that would do to glass.
I would, LA particularly. I was like, I wouldn't want to be a glass blower in LA. That seems miserable.
Her gallery does look beautiful. She does have one installation where she built it looks like a box, and it's a huge box, probably like the size of this room. And it's about 5 feet deep, and she blew all of these orchids, and then she suspended them from wires. And so there's a layer of orchids that comes from the back to the middle to the front, and they're all at different layers and levels. and they like sway back and forth. It's really trippy.
Oh, I want to see it. Maybe they'll be open because they're starting to, Seattle moved into phase 2 a couple weeks ago. We just moved into phase 2. And so museums and things like that can be open a little bit. So maybe.
Might be appointment only. We'll see.
Yeah.
But hopefully when things start to open up a little bit more, I would love to go see her work in person.
Yeah, that would be neat.
Or if it comes to Spokane. Who knows? We're close.
We are. Well, thank you for sharing Debora Moore, which I noticed her first name does not have an H at the end.
It does not. And that was really hard for me not to type every single time.
I bet. So if you're looking for her, it's Debora with no H. Not Debora.
Not Debora.
Not Debora Moore, which is what I would want to say. Thank you for sharing her story. I'm glad that you did.
Thank you. Like I said, I find her fascinating.
She is fascinating.
Yeah, her work is really beautiful.
And close.
Mm-hmm. I know. This one was kind of like hit home for me because I was like, oh my God, I could totally see it.
Yeah. Yeah, you could. And maybe we'll be able to talk to her.
All right. Well, we'd like to thank our editor, Lucas McIntyre.
We'll like to also thank Jennifer Finch of L7 for our kick-ass theme music that gets us banned in 5 countries.
That should be like on a selling point. Banned in 5 countries.
Banned in 5 countries. It's 5, right? North Korea, Syria, Iran, Cuba. Was it just 4? Maybe it's just 4.
Maybe it's 4. We'll work on it.
We'll work on a 5th one. We'll get there. And thank you for listening. And don't forget to check us out on social media. We also have a store on TeePublic. And we have a Patreon.
All right. Thanks for listening. Till next time.